Mr. Francisco, still one? Two, okay, got it. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's workshop. Let the record show that all council members are present. We have Councilwoman Gonzalez and Councilmember Adams. They are both on Zoom. We will start off with our citizen comments. If you have any cellular devices, please put them on mute or silence them. With our citizen comments, 4 minutes for the citizens, and council, you only have 1 minute to give it a response back to whatever question it might be, or not. We'll start off with Melissa Brown. Good afternoon, you have 4 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start off by talking about families in crisis. It was very much appreciated that the council initially agreed to support them. I think it's important for the public and the council to know why it's so important that families in crisis be funded. In the past, FIC was able to get funding through CDBG grants from the city, as well as other grants and funding from the city, county, state, and federal government. Over the past few years, that funding has dwindled or not been provided. FIC offers a lot of programs besides just the homeless shelter. When grant money comes in, it is oftentimes listed as restricted funding, something the council is very familiar with, which just means that it can only be used for specific purposes, and they have little flexibility on how that money can be used. When they do get unrestricted funds, they have to decide what the priority is for all that money. All funding and donations go into the programs. Currently, they offer 11 different programs and services through FIC, including assistance with rent and housing to mitigate homelessness. Recently, they have had to stop some of their programs. The Sexual Assault Victim Assistance Program had to stop last year. They ended their program that assisted people released from prison to get necessities to become productive members of society, and that's all due to funding losses. So the $350,000 that the city is proposing to use from ARPA couldn't be going to a better use at this time. It's going to stay right here in our community. It's going to lead to productiveness. It will help slow that transition and make sure we don't have more people pouring into homelessness. We can't hope to stop the problem if we continue to have more people fall into it. So I appreciate and hope that the council will pass that with no issues. As far as the rezoning on Reese Creek, currently it's being requested that it be zoned to a B3. However, it says that it's going to be for an office space, and office spaces can be zoned B2. What is the difference, the importance in that? As a B2, they can use it as an office space in the neighborhood, but it wouldn't be another Dollar General in the future. And then finally, last week I did not get to finish telling you my thoughts on the WCID number 1 improvements. So in addition to what I listed last week, I'd like to say that the primary rush to get this done now is because they're waiting and making sure Colleen doesn't go over the maximum capacity use in order to transition services from Belton. The only way for this to work is to put plant number 1 offline, transfer all of that load to the Stillhouse plant. As we continue to grow and spread and use more water, we're going to have to rely on that Stillhouse plant. Once it gets to a certain output daily for just the city of Colleen, they will no longer be able to transfer that load from Belton. So we're being asked to put in the money and also do it now so that everybody else can benefit from it. It's a collective program that we have essentially. So that 2 million gallons per day, in theory, we have all of that available, But when you add in all of the other customers, that's what's going to push that production level above that threshold of 80% per day. What I'm asking the council again is to keep that in mind, and let's do what other cities have done. Let's hold off on this unless we want to put city priorities to the side. None of this was included in the debt forecast, so we need to make sure that we're accounting for everything and prioritize either the water or the parks or the town hall
Your time is up.
or
Thank
whatever
you.
else the city council
Michael
deems is a necessity.
Fornino. Good afternoon, you have 4 minutes.
Regarding enforcement of low-level marijuana offenses, you folks can't even be honest with the language about the agenda. This whole argument that should never have been brought up was decriminalization. I mean, you stuck your foot in it, and now you can't get out of it. All right, I warned you. Basic civics. When it comes to this, I mean, you say that I'm mean to you. What are you going to do? Complain to the Attorney General in court? You can't say that? Anything that I've said was friendly warnings with this. We would never have been in this mess if this measure had not gone forward. You can accurately judge a thing or an idea on the merits of who or what supports it. Let's detail some of that. Some of the strongest advocates. An out-of-town attorney that doesn't know the law, quite clearly. Half-truths. I don't need to be a law school graduate to know that. Doesn't know the law, sold you folks a bunch of snake oil, and you never bothered to consider the side effects. Another strong supporter, again, I won't mention names, but a cop who is no longer a cop because he was fired with cause for being dirty. Same person also had to be told by his boss at County Commissioner's Court that County Commissioner's Court is not a court of law. Again, person who doesn't understand his job. A former council member who was a strong proponent of it quoted in the paper, well, how do we change the law and the Constitution? If you're an elected official and you actually have to ask that question, I think it bears mind to ask the question, do you even belong in elected office if you don't know how civics works, how to change a law, or how to change the Constitution? We've already spent more money than is necessary for a case that we can't win, and we will not win. Have you considered the side effects further down the road? As I've stated before, many times, this council, as a body, many iterations, lacks foresight, over the horizon thinking. When the city of Killeen loses, well, you're all by name on the case, but we, the taxpayers, are going to lose. When the TML has to pay the fines, the rates are going to go up. That's on our shoulders. For what? Comes down to ego, comes down to pride. When the possibility, the very real possibility, that each one of you could be removed from office by the Attorney General for violating the state law. You never once considered that, did you? Now, my bet and my gut says it'd be a political thing, and while it's well known that I have my disagreements with the mayor, there's a political, gesture. You would just remove the city manager and the mayor, leave you folks there. I mean, which in a way is unfair to the mayor. I'll grant that. She didn't vote on it, but you folks did. Your comments in the press make me wonder if you know anything about the Constitution or civics. I've offered to have a sit down with you folks. Say, hey, look, but no, you guys don't do that. And now we're already paying the salary of the city attorney, who would not be sitting first, second, or third chair at any such trial or hearing. We've already lost the county case. It's going to go to, well, it's in the Fifth Circuit, Third Circuit, in Circuit Court. We're going to lose that. And now we've got to fight the same losing battle in another direction with the state. And we cannot and will not win. I mean, this is what I've been talking about and many other people talking about. I'm speaking calmly. And you will not listen. This all comes down to, I told you so. And in the end, we're going to pay. You're all concerned about the image of the city. No, this is not going to help. I mean, how's it going to look? I mean, your political careers, if you get removed from office, censured, or fined, dare say this is as high as you're going to go in
Thank you,
politics.
sir. Your time is up. Mr. Leo Gukaisen. Good afternoon, sir. You have 4 minutes.
My spectacles here. Madam Mayor Pro Temp, Council Member, City Manager, Mr. Cagle, and fellow residents. I'd like to start off by saying a house divided against itself cannot stand, which was quoted by President Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. I'm here today to talk about the DS 24013, discuss the state of Texas versus City of Killeen and Bell County versus City of Killeen regarding enforcement of low-level marijuana offenses. But I'm sure you already knew that. I would like to start off with a few disclaimers. First, as this body has stated numerous times, I am not a lawyer, which is correct, and I never played one on TV either. Secondly, this body had once insinuated that just because people are not part of the council, they have a problem with reading. Well, I can read and comprehend what I read or what I have read. Does the city have enough in this fight to fight a two-front war, with the state of Texas on one side and Bell County on the other side? Or other words, how deep is this body willing to make the pocket to fight this two-front action? Will the ground, I think they call them ground-based Texas or ground, whatever they call, are they going to help the city in this lawsuit? Okay. Or are they just going to sit back and do nothing? It is my opinion that in this situation, we are in this situation because the body decided to listen to people who misinformed not only this body, but the residents of Killeen, and doing the easy wrong over the hard right when it came to this matter. There's a saying that my father told me once many years ago, and it stuck to me to the day. He said, just because something is right does not make it or mean that it is right. Have you noticed how the outside influencers have changed their tune regarding this matter? Before they were using the word decriminalize. Now they have their love word is deprioritizing. So what is it? Decriminalizing or deprioritizing? They sold it as a decriminalization, but now they're saying we're not doing that. We're deprioritizing the drug misdemeanor offense. I'm going to read that too. It is time here for the city to end this facade. As I like to say in plain language, it's time to cut sling on this. It is time to stop throwing good money after bad. I hope that when you go behind closed doors tonight to discuss this matter, our city attorney will give you sound advice and that you will come back and stop the waste and agree to repeal this entire matter at the next available time. I would like to leave you with a quote from Albert Einstein to ponder on while you're deliberating behind closed doors. What is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. Thank you. Mic is off, man.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Anyway, Mayor, Council, so I've got a question on almost every subject on tonight's agenda. So bear with my speed, I apologize. I'm just looking for quick answers, right? Okay, so for RS 24019, $5 million for software. Can we justify that? Because don't know why we're spending that kind of money.
Madam
For software.
Secretary, would you stop the clock, please? Staff, would you please be attentive to Mr. Price's questions in case we may forget what he asked you. So we can
Aw.
make sure when they
Mayor.
present the slides, they will be able to answer.
Yeah, I
All right.
appreciate that.
You're welcome, sir. Madam Secretary, we're ready. Thank you.
We're good? Okay. So why are we spending so much money for software, right? Even if it is an upgrade, you know, MedAct didn't spend that much money to upgrade their medical software, right? This is 3 times more than that. For what? I don't necessarily know this program, but it seems extremely expensive for software. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how big the network is. RS-2402, how often are we going to get this, utilize this piece of equipment? Can we not just get a contract with a rental company and rent it when we need it? I don't know how often we would need this type of a boom or anything like that. So was that not part of the process to address the issues, right? Because I think if we only need this piece of equipment once or twice or 3 times a year, we can simply go down here to rent your device for $300 a day and save a lot more money than $119,000 for a boom. Just saying. RS-24022, what was at this property prior to it being now? That's my question. So the city owns this property, so what was on it prior to? It's just a curiosity killed the cat question here. I just don't understand. We're now selling the property, am I right? I think that's what this is. So I was just wondering what was there before, or compared to what is there now. 24-023, I would suggest that we get some forward thinking on this, and if we're going to give the money and put the money forward to it, which this is a great program, right? Being homeless myself once, I would suggest that we look forward and maybe put it up there to do more than just this year. Add next year. Find out a way to add more money to the program, or at least a commitment to bring it forward for next year too, to have some foresight to it, get the plans to end this homelessness in Killeen. As we go down into DS 24009, the financial impact of the proposal, how did it impact the water pressure and purity of our water? That's my question. DS 24010, on the discussion of financial governance policy and updates, I'm just asking, who are those the mid managers and local manager that you start with in that program? 24011, the workshop, could it be known now about the primary priority that we're looking at for the budget, for next year's budget? Can that be announced tonight? And then DS 24013, when are we going to stop selling Delta 8 and other marijuana products downtown Killeen? Because they're sold everywhere. And kids are getting a hold of the gummies and being high at school. So, with RQ 2401, with the for this for future agenda items, I would ask to also include Highway I-14, because people are crossing over that without using the underpass.
Sir, your time is up. Thank you.
And that would end
Sir, thank you.
my questions. Thank you.
Pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Law, Government Code 551.001, Council, I'm moving this item up after the citizen comments. That's okay? All right. The mayor now calls a closed meeting of the city council on the 6th day, February 2024, at 5:19 p.m. Under the following authority. Agenda item DS-24-012, DS-24-13. We are now going in closed session. Due to time constraints, the council will be going back into closed door session. on DS 24-013. Council is out of closed session for DS-24-012 at 6:40 PM. We are now in regular session. Let the record show that Councilmember Sagara is absent. Mr. Francisco, is Councilmember Adams back? Let the record show that Councilmember Adams is absent and Councilwoman Gonzalez is on Zoom.
I'm present, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Madam Secretary, discuss items for regular city council meeting on February 13, 2024. Madam Secretary.
Minutes. LMN 24003, consider minutes of special city council meeting of January 9th, 2024. LMN 24004, consider minutes of regular city council meeting of January 16th, 2024.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Resolutions. Council members, you have 5 minutes to speak twice. Madam Secretary.
RS 24019, consider a memorandum resolution approving software as a service agreement with OpenGov and Ultimate Kronos Group for the Financial and Human Capital Management Suite in an amount not to exceed $5,380,829.09.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, Mr. Resto.
Good evening, Mayor,
And
Honorable Mayor and
Mrs.
Council.
Drake, are you presenting with them?
She will be.
Okay, all right,
As
sir.
we move through. The item before you tonight is selection of the Enterprise Resource ERP solution. This evening, I'm going to go over to address one of the fiscal '23 council budget priorities, big ideal number 1, which is item 15, which was technology needs for departments. But before I begin, I want to introduce some people that are here this evening.
Yes,
Members
sir.
of the ERP team, which some of them had to depart. But our HR team was Executive Director Eva Bark, Assistant Director Kate McDaniels, and Human Resource Journalist Michael Watson. From Finance, Executive Director Judith Tanglin, Assistant Director Miranda Drake, Controller Latasha Sherry. From the Purchasing, the Director of Procurement, Lorianne Luciano, and then from the IT Department, myself and our IT Project Manager, Gabriel Colon. Those were members of the city's team in evaluating the ERP. Members from the OpenGov representatives, we have Chloe Cowart, she's the Enterprise Account Executive, Stuart Langer, Senior Vice President of Financial Product Strategies, Haley Hoskins, Senior Professional Services Delivery Manager, and Eric Fahrenkopf, Senior Director of Sales. And we will all be available at the end of this presentation to answer any and all questions.
Thank you.
So a little background, on May of 2022, the council authorized utilization of $2.5 million from the general fund 2020-21 surplus exceeding 22% of the ERP software. The current enterprise resource planning system that we have is Central Square, which has been in place since 1998, so since 26 years. Currently, we utilize over a dozen separate systems and software to compensate for the shortcomings of the Central Square system at an additional cost of approximately $300,000. The difficulty and lack of integration results in the staff having to enter information, exporting information to Excel to create reports. And then from a technical standpoint, the underlying AS400 technology is nearly obsolete, and the application is considered to be by many nearing the end of the production life cycle. So some steps that we have taken. These are some of the after the direction of May 22nd, the council direction. I was assigned the task to develop and execute approach for the replacement of the current ERP. Please refer to your ERP handout that I have given you and describe some of the steps that we took to make our selection for the ERP replacement. So from May 2022 through October 2023, I conducted internal fact-finding meetings with internal departments to determine what functions and features that we must have in our replacement software. This led to the development of 198-page functional and technical requirements where we identified 3,210 requirements. You have excerpts of those questions and those requirements in the handout that I gave to you guys. So by utilizing this method, we were able to evaluate if the product meets the city needs. We were also created a demonstration script. This allowed us to have guided steps so that we could test the vendor solutions. So it was intense. We narrowed this down to potential vendors and then invited them on-site demonstrations. And those were 1 to 2 day demonstrations. We also went to site visits where we visit various cities that were using these products to sit down with them and understand what they were going through and their suggestions. So we had questions, and the questions are on the last page of your handout to go where we were going and trying to gather all this information, because this is an incredible investment that we're about to make. So after that comprehensive evaluation process, the committee recommended the city negotiate with OpenGov Technologies for the implementation services for the ERP and Ultimate Software Kronos for the human resources, payroll, timekeeping, and telestaff schedule. Here's some facts about OpenGov. They were founded in 2012. They're industry-leading government software provider. They have budgeting, procurement, asset management, financials. And here's some facts about Ultimate Kronos Group. Founded in 2020, Ultimate Kronos and Kronos merged in 2020 to form UKG, but Kronos itself has been in business since the 1980s. All-encompassing workforce management software utilizes technology for the human resources, time and attendance, telestaff scheduling, payroll services, employee services, and document management and reporting. These next couple of slides, Ms. Drake will come up and explain the financials.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So for the project budget, we have the $2.4 million for the government CIP fund. And the proposal is for the one-time cost of $948,000 and the OpenGov for the one-time cost and year 1 and 2 for the licensing for a total of $1.6 million. And then for the UKG one-time cost of $202,000 and the 1-year licensing, and then the total would be $2.2 million. And this would also include the true-up cost for our current procurement bidding software and transparency portal that we have with OpenGov currently. So to show the financial impact of the 5-year agreement or agreements, for OpenGov, the total is $3 million. And for UKG, it's 2.3 for a grand total of 5.3. And of that, the CIP funding would cover the 2.2 million. So the operating fund would absorb the 3.1 over a 5-year period.
Thank you.
And I'd like to point out that the range of implementation costs that we looked at, the high was 4 million. The medium was about 1.1 million. Central Square itself was 3.1 million. So we're in the middle with the 2.1 million. Just know that that's how fast the range went when all the solutions that we look at. What we're looking at now is a projected timeline. If we start in March, we would start off with the phase 1, which is going to be the operating budget, workforce planning, capital budget, budget end user training, and the online budget. Phase 2, we would, actually, I did that backwards. Phase 1 is chart of accounts, general ledger, requisitions, AP, and cash. Phase 2 is operating budget, workforce planning, capital budget. And then on the UKG portion, that would be the HR, payroll, learning management system, benefits, and Talistaff. So the goal would be to start in March and to, with OpenGov Phase 1 to be live in October 1 of this year. And then in February 2025 to have the complete system complete on UKG and OpenGov. So our recommendation is the staff recommends that the city council authorize the city manager or as a designee to enter into software as a service agreement with OpenGov and UKG using DI contract TSO 4227 and Omnia Purchase Cooperative contracts 18221 and 18220. Talistaff is the scheduling platform within UKG. In an amount not to exceed $5,380,829.09, and that the city manager or designee be expressly authorized to execute any and all change orders within the amount set by state and local law. And I'm available to answer any questions, and the team is here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Resto. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Resto.
Good evening.
And to the team that has come to participate in the meeting. Incredible investment, that's well said. And I can understand the $5.8 million price tag should produce sticker shock for some citizens. But the ERP financial software is only a need, an absolute need. It actually has been on the council's radar for about a year now. We heard about it during previous budget discussion where it was first introduced. And I actually sat down last week with the finance department and discussed the software. This was one of the topics that came up, and we discussed the obsolescence of the 26-year-old software. And I seen for myself where the screens are antiquated. They have that old Commodore look from the 80s, and it's almost prehistoric. And I also seen for myself, where the user interface is limited, where there are redundant entries which are necessary, and getting tech support, also learned, is a major issue. I did ask a question about the efficiencies the new software will produce, and there are many, too many for me to try to interpret, because I don't have a finance background at this point. From what I've learned, the finance department has done their due diligence in doing demos with other cities, researching finance softwares, as well as determining most cost-effective solution for our city. It should be noted or reiterated that this would be paid in stages and not upfront. So I am familiar with this, happen to sit in finance and talk about it, and learn it is a need for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've seen a demo of the software, and I was wondering, there's two other phases of this software, the permitting system, and then there's another one for utilities, recreation. It's actually a total government system. Is there any reason why we're not pursuing those as well?
Yes, so the transition for permits, planning, and engineering, code enforcement are already moving to MyGov Online, which is a separate product that we're actually, permits is already implemented 1 October, but we're moving those to a whole completely different platform that's all online, that covers them. The utility collections is what we are planning in last year's CIP. That is going to be our phase 2. We want to get the financials set in first, and then we will come back sometime, hopefully this year, with the replacement for the utilities.
Okay, and that will be a better system to allow citizens
Yes.
to pay their utility bill.
And the reason behind that is that we had to get the financials in place first so that we knew what software for utility collections would interface with. So until we had the financials in place, we needed a system that tell them, oh, in our request for proposals for utility collection, we needed to be able to tell them that this software must interface with OpenGov if we move forward with OpenGov.
And then the last part of that is the asset management piece. Are we doing that as well? I didn't hear it in the presentation.
Asset management?
What was the question?
Yes, it is in there. The asset
The
management,
asset management?
yes.
Yeah.
It is in the OpenGov platform.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Sir, I'm understanding a lot of this software and the things that are needed and that we're with the old system. We spoke of the utility portion. Is that included in this price tag, or will we have more?
We budgeted 1.7 million in a CIP for the utility collections alone.
Okay, I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that was there.
And we
Okay,
hope that when we start doing the bids, that is going to be funded through that
the 1.7.
mechanism.
okay, thank you.
Councilmember Solomon?
So when y'all went out for the bid, this was, from what I understand, this is the lowest and the best.
It's
terms
in
of-
the middle.
It's in the middle.
So the highest was 4 million, the lowest was 1.1 million as far as implementation. Most all of them are about the same in annual services as a application as a service. It's about 600,000. The lowest is about 380,000. So they're all comparable. The 4 million ones were way out of our range and out of our budget, obviously. Good products, but couldn't meet it in there with our current 2.5 million budget that we had.
And you found this to be the better.
Yes, after going through 2 days, OpenGov came down to our location for 2 days, and we sat through not just the evaluation team, we brought the whole teams in. So we sat down and question and answers with them. And the team, when we got down to the voting phase, unanimously picked OpenGov.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Mr. Resto, since being in council, your excellence in choosing products for our city and for our operations have been excellent. You've answered the last question that I was really concerned about, adding the other adaptations to this, could we move forward? And so I'm understanding from reading and from some of the research that this moves forward with us.
Yes.
If we went somewhere else, we could, it goes forward and it still works. And we're looking at 20 more years of this, right? I want 20.
We hope that it will be another 20 more
Okay,
years.
another 20 years, okay. Sir, thank you for your service, and I thank your staff. This is really detailed, a lot of information. It took me some time. I'm a really slow thinker, but I like to make sure I get it all.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I do want to just say it was an incredible effort about our team for us to take this on. A lot of people's, a lot of time, a lot of coordination. Ms. Lorianne is sick today, but the efforts that she put forth as far as coordinating and with all these vendors and getting us all in the same rooms for the amount of time, we didn't take it lightly. We put a lot of effort in it so that we knew we were making a big choice. And, you know, the city manager has said several times, you know, this is a big number, will you get it, make sure we get it right. So it's always ringing in the back of my head. We're going to try to get it right. So we spent a lot of time. That's why I went to the timeline, because I wanted to show that it wasn't just, oh, do an RFP, do a demo, and we're done. We spent a lot of time going to a lot of places. City San Marcos deserves credit. They sat down for a half a day with us and went through the system. The city of Round Rock as well, set up a half a day, and we sat down with them. And we were able to get our questions answered and also see them use the product as well and hear the pluses and minuses of how they felt the products they were using was. So a lot of effort here was done.
Thank you and your team. Mr. Resto, the updates for the software, is that included in the cost, or every year it has to be updated?
They have an update cycle, but I'll allow one of the the Kronos guys, one of the open guys to spend it.
Good evening, sir. Would you please state your name?
Yes, Stuart Langer, Senior Vice President of Product Strategy for OpenGov. the way our software is delivered, it is, updates are issued quarterly. It's part of the standard subscription fee, and the process is automated for all of our customers, so everyone is operating on the same version of the same software at all times.
And thank you, sir. And Mr. Resto, the subscription fee is included in this cost?
The first year subscription fee, after the first year is, I had it here in the contract. Nope, I didn't have it here.
Oh, no, sir, that's okay, I have a note. No, that's okay, I thought it was included, but yes,
It's-
you're right, it is in there.
It's in there.
Yes, sir. Okay, Councilmember Adams. Thank you for that, Mr. Resto.
So for the citizens, as IT folks, we can speak around folks. Can you explain what efficiencies this may have for citizens as they go and do business with the cities when we do go before the public?
The biggest,
the public,
the biggest plus for this system is that it's going to be a lot of web-based. So you're going to see a lot of dashboards that they haven't been able to see. Even the council members will be able to get information from a privatized, dedicated dashboard for you guys, so you guys can see all the financials as we go through. But there are other efficiencies internally. All this double entry that we're doing, the employees now can concentrate more on other items instead of double entering and the interfaces that we have issues with. Those are the efficiencies that we're going to see on our side, and the reporting, which is one of the things we're lacking right now. We're going to be able to generate those reports throughout the system, where now they have to export it and massage it in Excel to get you the information that you need. But I think you're going to like the dashboard portions of it, because that's going to be something that's going to be dedicated just for the council members, that you're going to enjoy being able to see that. You won't have to call Mr. Cagle to ask him how much money's in the bank. You can just go in there and you can see.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if I'd be asking that question. No, that's good. This is a large price tag. I think it'd be good if the city manager would kind of reiterate the importance of this software purchase for the city.
Yes, sir, thank you for that. It's critical. We use it every day. It touches so many of our employees every day, and as Mr. Resto said, we're going to eliminate a lot of double work, and that helps us address growth issues as we grow, and you're able to eliminate double work. We don't have to add employees at the same rate to keep up with our population growth. So it will make us more efficient, and we don't have much of an alternative at some point. We're at the end of life with what we have, so we were pushed into a decision. We got the very most we could get out of the software that we had, and delaying longer just was asking for a possible big problem. That would be, because as you've seen the timeline, you can't just snap your fingers and make a decision and implement something. So we're avoiding, I think one thing we underplayed a little bit, we're avoiding some big problems down the road by making this decision now.
Sure, thank you for that. Proactive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Resto.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just had a quick question.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. You may have already said it, but Mr. Resto, what's the migration time? So if this is approved, or once it's approved, what is the time frame as far as transferring or getting everything set up? What time frame does that look like?
We're hoping to do our kickoff in March, and then be live with phase 1 in October. So it's going to be very aggressive. The teams have all agreed that we need to get going and move on with this product. So that's kind of the timeline. It is in flux, but I'm pretty sure that OpenGov, they're committed as well to get us there, to get this going as fast as we can.
Outstanding.
And I got to be transparent. The other side of this coin is that, we're still having to keep our current system. So we're kind of transitioning from one to the other. So you're going to see me come asking for a renewal for the other one, because I got to have a transition plan to wean off the old system and going into the new system. So bear with me, and that contract ends in June of this year, but that's part of that transition plan so that we can move over.
Yes, and thank you for saying that, because that usually is the process. It is a little time consuming and having to balance those two. So thank you for sharing that transparency. Have a good one.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 24020, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the procurement of a crane body for the Public Works Water Distribution Division from Silsbee Ford in the amount of $119,537.60.
Thank you. Mrs. Tangleman. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The item I have here to present is for the procurement of the crane body for Public Works Water Distribution. We're going to talk a little bit about the background. We have a new chassis that we just received, and it's ready for a crane body. We obtained 2 out of 4 solicited quotes, and the lower quote was from Silsbee Ford, and also with the lowest time and delivery, that is 6 weeks time frame, with the amount of $119,527. The other one from Caldwell was a little bit higher with a 10 months delivery, and the other 2 vendors did not respond to the quotes. The staff recommends a purchase from Silsbee Ford because it's part of the interlocal. It is part of the interlocal purchasing system that's Silsbee Ford. So the total cost of the new crane, like I say, is $119,537. We have a budget available for the crane body for $79,390, and we also have $40,148 in the CIP contingency account that we will need a budget amendment for. The unit 566 is undersized. It's 16 years old with 171,000 miles. And then we have a spend on repair and maintenance, $74,000 so far in this fiscal year. The replacement chassis was ordered on December 2021, fiscal year 2022, so it took 2 years to come. This is how the truck is going to look once it has the crane. And the recommendation that the staff recommends City Council authorize the purchase of the crane body for the Public Works Water Distribution Division from Silsbee Ford in the amount of $119,537.60, and that the city manager or designee be authorized to execute any and all change orders as permitted by state and local law. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. There are no questions.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 24021, consider a memorandum resolution awarding bid number 2412, gasoline, unleaded, and clear diesel fuel for Killeen Regional Airport to Fikes Wholesale Incorporated in an amount of $133,900 for FY 2024.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Provost.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. So before you have the fuel, unleaded gasoline and clear diesel contract award. The Aviation Department sells unleaded gasoline and clear diesel to airport tenants. The current contract with Fikes Wholesale, Inc. expires in March 31st of this year. Fuel purchases depend on the tenant's demand for fuel, and historically, our monthly purchase volume is 3,800 gallons of unleaded and 400 gallons of clear diesel. We advertised back in December of 2023 with a local newspaper, city website, multiple statewide electronic bidding sites, and bids were opened in December 21st of 2023. 2 bids were received, one from Fikes Wholesale and the other one from Big Chief Distributor. Fuel purchase is based on a daily market value, and by awarding the contract to Fikes Wholesale, the airport estimates an annual profit of $9,000 based on historical fuel purchases. And the recommendation is the City Council award a contract with Fikes Wholesale for the purchase of unleaded gasoline and clear diesel delivered to the Killeen Regional Airport, and authorize the city manager to execute the same and all amendments or supplemental agreements with the amounts set by state and local law. Pending any questions?
No, sir. Thank you. Madam Secretary.
RS 24022, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the sale of real property at the intersection of Jim Avenue and Fabiana Drive.
Thank you. Attorney Clemens. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. All right, this item is to discuss the sale of a .1 acre tract of real property. So a little bit of background on this. In July of 2023, staff identified improvements made by an abutting property owner that were encroaching on city-owned property. This is located at the corner of Jim Avenue and Fabiana Drive. For reference, this is near Elms and Robinette in that area. So the issue here is that a fence, it was built, it's a piece of property in a neighborhood, on the corner of a neighborhood, abutting a 23-acre tract that the city owns. Nolan Creek runs through part of that 23-acre tract. This .1 acre piece of property is fenced into the abutting property's backyard, and so in their backyard, the fence is encroaching into our property, and then there's an accessory building that was permitted that's within that encroachment, as well as a carport and a driveway. The accessory building permit was issued in 2012, and it did not contain a map or diagram of where it was located at the time, but now we've located it. It is encroaching on city property. So when we looked at what the options were, the abutting property, we did speak with the abutting property owner about the encroachment, and they requested that the city sell the land to those property owners. We discussed this with staff, Public Works staff, Development Services, Park staff, to see and consulted with them to decide if there were any issues with any city plans moving forward. And city staff did not have any issue, and they didn't believe that this would interfere with any city plans to go ahead and convey to convey this property at the time. The total area is approximately 4,200 square feet, and according to the appraisal district, the abutting property is valued at $1.63 per square foot. And so if council would like to do this, we have negotiated a sale price of $6,800 based on that square footage valuation of the abutting property. So if approved, the owner would have the area surveyed, and they would bear the cost of that, and the city would convey the property via quitclaim deed. So staff recommends that the city council authorize the sale of the real property to the abutting property owner for $6,800, and authorize the city manager designate to execute all documents necessary to complete the sale. There was a question from a citizen, and I wanted to answer that. What was on the property prior to this? Prior to the improvements that were encroached, it was unimproved land. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney, and the reason for the public is because they had already built a fence on it. It was a small amount of property, and the city couldn't use it, so in return, we'll sell it to them instead of having the owner to tear up his or her fence, because there was no use. We could use it anyway, correct?
That's correct. The rest of the 23 acres we can use as intended, and instead of having to ripping out those improvements just for that .1 acre of land, this will put that back on the tax rolls. Property owner will pay taxes on it, and we believe that that's the best benefit to the city at this time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that reply. Councilmember Boyd.
Just a quick question. How long might this process take to close?
This process shouldn't take long to close at all. If you approve this, we can execute the quitclaim deed and do this within less than a month.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? All right, thank you, Attorney Clemens. Madam Secretary.
RS 24023, consider memorandum resolution authorizing the execution of a grant agreement with Families in Crisis Incorporated, utilizing American Rescue Plan Act funds for operating expenses for the Friends in Crisis program in an amount not to exceed $350,000.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney, I have a question. I know we just left that item, and I wanted you to explain to the residents something. Before I go to the next item, can I ask you that question?
Yes, you want to.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not going to call on McNair. My question to you, one of the things that I talked to Mr. Kager about, and he gave me insight on it. Why we just tell the audience and the council why we just cannot give them that land?
That's city-owned property, and per the statute, you want to get fair market value for the city. And I do want to clarify, I said less than a month, the survey, the property owner will have to get a survey of the property, and that may take a bit of time, but the actual closing, once we get that, won't take long.
All right, thank you very much. I apologize, Ms. McNair. Good evening, ma'am, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Council, City Manager, and Assistant City Manager. I'm here to present the Friends in Crisis Grant Agreement to be funded with ARPA. Families in Crisis, and before I start, I do want to recognize William Hall and Suzanne Armour from Families in Crisis. They are in the audience, and should there be any questions, they are more than happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Families in Crisis Incorporated provides emergency shelter and supportive services to persons experiencing homelessness through several programs, including but not limited to Domestic Violence Shelter, Emergency Solutions Grant Shelter Program, and the Killeen Homeless Shelter, also known as Friends in Crisis. On October 9th, the City of Killeen received a letter along with the 2022 financial statement from Families in Crisis describing challenges with funding, which would force the organization to cease operations of its homelessness shelter, Friends in Crisis, starting in March of this year through September of this year. The reason for the anticipated shutdown was due to significant decreases in federal and state funding previously made available in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The amount initially requested was $396,504, with monthly costs estimated as follows. For shelter services, wages and benefits, $42,813, and operations, which will cover food, cleaning supplies, telephone, electricity, water, repair, and maintenance, $6,759. 2 days later, the City of Killeen received an updated letter from Families in Crisis, decreasing the amount to $347,004. On October 17, 2023, representatives from FIC appeared before this council to request consideration for funding with the reappropriation of American Rescue Plan Act funding as presented by the finance staff under agenda item DS-23-100. And on November 28th, a public hearing, PH 23060, was held, and City Council directed staff to increase revenue and expense accounts in multiple funds, including ARPA, and the ARPA reappropriation included funding for FIC for the Friends in Crisis program specifically, and the amount of $350,000. The FIC ARPA grant agreement will fund operating expenses for the Friends in Crisis program from March through September of this year in an amount not to exceed $350,000. FIC will request funding monthly as a reimbursement, and FIC will also submit quarterly progress reports during the funding period. Staff recommends the City Council authorize the City Manager or his designee to execute an ARPA subrecipient agreement for the homeless services with Families in Crisis in an amount not to exceed $350,000. And we are available to take questions, and I will invite William and Suzanne to come forward now. Thank you. I can hear you. There was one item from citizen comments, if I can address that. And it was to do more forward thinking and provide funds beyond this year. In the homeless strategic plan update, as far as what the city can do going forward to help support an organization when they have a deficiency in their funding, it was recommended in that update that the city consider setting aside some funds to help. But if there aren't funds available, we can't just say that we will fund multiple years. It's just what's available now, and this is a really smart move for the city to assist this organization as it is now. But should additional money be made available, and I am always actively looking for grants, as well as the organization that is before us, we will definitely figure out how and where we could possibly provide that assistance.
Yes, yes, It's on, but, okay, there you go. Yes, thank you, Ms. McNair. And one of the questions that we heard tonight, I heard in the chamber, I heard from other people, that they were awarded $2 million from the federal government. And it doesn't change the need, and I guess you can agree with me, it doesn't change the need of assisting them at that shelter. From my perspective, that what we promised, the council should move forward and do it, so.
Yes, ma'am. And to reiterate, in the presentation that I just gave you, it talked about funding the Friends in Crisis operation that they oversee. The funding that they received, from what I read and discussed with both Mrs. Armour and Mr. Hall, that money is specifically for housing services programs. This is emergency shelter. But they can explain further if you would like them to.
No, ma'am, I just wanted it on the record, and
Yes,
anyone
ma'am.
that was out there and listening, that there was that clarity. That's
Yes.
what I needed people to hear. There's two different programs.
Okay.
And I thank you for that.
Thank
We
you.
do have questions. Mayor Pro Tem.
This is more of a statement than a question. Just recently, we had some clients who were at Families in Crisis, and they had some concerns. So I decided to come on over to Family in Crisis. And this is the answer, and I was very pleased with the answer, because they had received sheets of paper saying that they had to leave. And they didn't understand why did they have to leave. And I thought it was really nice. I thought the ruling and what we were doing was really good. That you have to show yourself working towards better. That you have to be engaged and looking for rent, engaged and working. I even ran across a person who had a savings and did not want to leave because he didn't want to take any money out of his savings. So he had found that fit. So it's good to know that you're not just housing and giving people allowances to live somewhere without improving themselves. So I thought that was a kudo, and I'm happy that we're going to work with you because we do need to move people forward.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation, and thank you all for being here. Initially, when this item came up, I had reservations on it. I went with the will of the council. Obviously, the need is there. My concern wasn't anything with you guys. It was the fact that we have so many other nonprofits that also serve a great need, and you know, I don't like the appearance of preferential treatment, or if we're doing for one nonprofit and not doing for the other nonprofits. I wish we had the money to fund all nonprofits, but you know, as well as we know, that's not the case. I do believe for staff that this really does shine a light as to the importance and need to get our additional homeless housing options on the ground. You know, we have a couple of projects that we're looking at, and I think it only makes sense when you're in situations like this, so you don't have to rely on a sole service provider. If all of the burden is on Friends in Crisis and they have an issue like they had now, and they, for some reason, they have to shut their doors, and there is no other option for unhoused people to go to. So I think, again, this really does shine a light on the importance of also refocusing back on our efforts to work on our Atkinson Avenue project. And but thank you all for being here, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank y'all again for what y'all do out there every day and for many years. Given that you, if we approve this $350,000, which we did promise, and it's good until September, do you have plans from that? What are your plans from September on up?
We do. We're currently in the funding cycles for 1 October forward. So those funding cycles are now. We're writing the grants. We just dropped off the ones for the county. So we're actively looking for the additional funding. like we do for all our programs. It's an ongoing thing every year.
Yes, I do understand that, you're right, and you're good at writing those grants. I'm familiar with that. Okay, great, so you do have a plan, so you won't, come September, you'll be good to go.
We hope so.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. The time that you know, the window regarding the allotment of the funds as to whether or not you're going to receive them, is there a broader window? I feel like we were kind of pushed into this at the 11th hour and we didn't receive word from your organization. It was actually
Councilwoman Gonzalez, you're breaking up really bad, so you have a bad connection. You have an extremely bad connection. Can you call back in, or, because your face is frozen? Ma'am, Councilwoman Gonzalez. Councilwoman Gonzalez, your face is frozen. Can you call back in?
So I guess my concern also would be regarding the communication piece. How far in advance?
All right, okay, she's gone. All right, are there any more questions? Okay, if you don't mind, we're gonna try to give her a minute and see, can she, yes, Councilmember Boyd. We're gonna see if she can come back on. We'll give her a minute. Yes, sir. So council is not in session right now. We have to take a break. The reason we have to take a break once a council member leave, because we only have 4, there's no longer a quorum. So we have to wait till Mayor Pro Tem Cobb come back. I apologize for that. Our council meeting is back in session. Councilwoman Gonzalez, with your question, please. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam. Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. So my question was concerning the fact that we got the information in the 11th hour regarding the need of the organization. My question to the folks out there is there a way that we can be notified directly in the event that there is a need when they find out? What is the timeline for their anticipated funding?
We can notify the city and county, when we have a funding issue, as soon as we're notified. We start working that immediately this last time. Some of these timelines are very close. We're working funding now, but we may not know answers until a month, 2 months, 3 months before funding. And as soon as we find out, we start working other issues to fix problems.
And so generally, you know that you're going to you're at risk, right? There's a potential challenge. So I would just encourage you all to please let us know, because this time around, we didn't find out from your organization. We were hearing whispers on the street from concerned constituents and concerned volunteers and things like that, but we had not heard from the org. So that would just be my recommendation moving forward, is that if you know that there's a need, that we could also be notified in advance. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you. Madam Secretary, thank you. Ms. McNair, and thank you all. Madam Secretary?
RS 24024, consider a memorandum resolution appointing commissioners to the Youth Advisory Commission for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Hartnett.
Thank you. I'm standing in for Ms. Snook tonight. Good
Yes,
evening,
ma'am.
Mayor, Council, Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager, Assistant City Manager. I am excited to present the appointment of 3 additional commissioners to the Youth Advisory Commission for our middle of the year call. The Youth Advisory Commission was created in 1993 to serve as liaison to the City Council. YAC is comprised of up to 37 commissioners and unlimited resource and junior members. The FY23 activities included Leaders in Training, Youth Conference, Terry Day, and Off the Record. We did just get back from TML Youth Summit from this weekend that was in Louisville. Our YAC goals include communicating with local government on current issues, providing leadership growth and development opportunities, involving and engaging our youth in alcohol and drug-free networking activities, and providing volunteer opportunities to create a sense of community environmental awareness. The mission state of the Youth Advisory Commission is to provide the youth of our communities opportunities through volunteerism and service by taking initiatives that are directed towards effective change. The City Council makes appointments as vacancies occur, and we did have a need this year. On January 20th, 2024, interviews were conducted by Councilmember Segarra, and Councilman Adams joined us that day, and Parks and Recreation staff. 3 students were recommended to serve as the commissioners for the middle of the year based on their leadership ability and community involvement. Those 3 members you'll meet next week: Carlos Diaz Torres, Malachi Phillips, and Miguel Soto. And staff recommends appointing the recommended nominations as the Youth Advisory Commissions for the middle of the FY 23-24.
Thank you, ma'am. There are no questions. Thank you. Madam Secretary?
RS 24025, consider a memorandum resolution approving an election services contract with Bell County.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
On January 30th, 2024, City Council ordered the May 4th, 2024 general election for the purpose of electing a mayor and 3 council members at large. As in years past, Bell County Elections Department has offered to provide assistance and certain services to the city for the upcoming election. Before you is a list of services the county has agreed to provide the city during the election season. The city's estimated cost for contracting for election services with Bell County is $7,000. $100,000 was budgeted in this fiscal year for the May 2024 general election, which will be divided between the City Clean Independent School District and the Tax Appraisal District of Bell County. And staff recommends City Council approve the election services contract with Bell County, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Madam Secretary? Public hearing will be held on February 13th, 2024 Council, you have 2 times each to speak for 5 minutes. Madam Secretary.
PH 24003, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by Timothy Turner on behalf of Cleo Bay Imports, case number Z2329, to rezone part of the J.H. Lewis Survey 2-1, abstract number 536, from R1 Single Family Residential District to B3 Local Business District. The property is locally addressed as 4452 Reese Creek Road, Killeen, Texas.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager, and Assistant City Manager. This case is to rezone property that is located at 4452 Reese Creek Road from single-family residential to B3 Local Business District. Star on the map shows the approximate location of the property. This is an aerial of the property. This is the surrounding zoning. You see some residential to the north, to the east, B3 already. And that is federal government property there that's on agriculture, and then also to the west, a little residential, and then also some more commercial. The applicant's intent is to develop a commercial building on the property for office use. This is a view looking at the property looking north, view looking west, looking east down Reese Street. The property is located in the regional commercial designation for the future land use map. So this request is consistent with the future land use plan. It's also as it relates to growth in an area that we like to encourage growth. That's neighborhood infill, because utilities and services are already there. So it doesn't cost much to allow that kind of development to continue to happen. The comprehensive plan recommendations that would be forwarded by this request are listed on the slide. Some information concerning the development zone that the property is in. All public notifications have been accomplished with no written responses back from surrounding property owners. And that shows the notification extent, 200-foot boundary that's required by law, and the 400-foot boundary that's required by City Council. Staff is, again, finding that this applicant's request is consistent with the comp plan, the future land use plan, and there'll be no negative impacts to surrounding properties, and so we're recommending approval of the request from single family to B3. This case was heard at the December 18th meeting by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they voted unanimously, and actually the vote was 8-0, but they voted unanimously to recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. There are no questions for you. Madam Secretary.
PH 24004, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by Quintero Engineering on behalf of A&T Construction, LLC, case number Z2330, to rezone approximately 7.4 acres being part of the W.L. Harris Survey, abstract number 1155, from R1 Single Family Residential District to R2 Two-Family District. The property is generally located south of the intersection of Mesa Verde Drive and Alfredo Guerrero Avenue, Killeen, Texas.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Rivera.
Yes, ma'am. This case is a request to rezone property that's generally located, as mentioned on the slide, and I'll have a star that shows you exactly where it is, from single family to a duplex or two-family. Oh. See if I can go back here. And so that's the approximate location. Okay, got you. That aerial shows the property itself, the location of the property. Stan Sluder is just off of the map there. As you can see, the surrounding zoning, for the most part, with the exception of that to the west, is R1 for single family. This is a view of the property actually facing west. I know it says east, but it's actually facing west, down Stan Sluter toward Bunny Trail. That's a view of the property facing east. It's also located in the traditional neighborhood. So the request is consistent with that designation. As a matter of fact, that last bullet really should say traditional neighborhood as well. It can't be in traditional neighborhood and regional commercial. So it is traditional neighborhood. I'll correct that for the record. It's also in a controlled growth area. So in the controlled growth area, there's most certainly some things that we want to make sure is managed. And the slide speaks to that. The comprehensive plan recommendations that would be forwarded. Development zone, again, development zone 5. Do want to point out that if this is approved, the parkland dedication requirements would be noted here in terms of what would be required. All public notifications did happen. We did receive 3 written responses. Those responses were really pretty much related to concerns about traffic, concerns about protecting the character of the existing single-family neighborhood, and things about property value. And that shows the notification extent. Staff believes that this is consistent with the comp plan. However, we do also believe that it's not consistent with the single-family character of the surrounding area. And I would like to take this moment to note that this request came before the council in June of 2022. It was the exact request, but they waited. There's a 12-month period you have to wait, so they waited beyond that period and brought back the same request. When this came before council in June of 2022, the council's position at that time was not to approve it. So staff recommends disapproval of this request. This was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and by a vote of 7-1, they voted to recommend approval of the request, with one Commissioner Sabree stating that she agreed with staff recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle. I just, you said that, it came to my mind that a duplex would be in the middle of an area that's all R1.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
what triggered in my mind when you said controlled growth, go into more details with that. I know you don't want all those I'm assuming, I don't know, I don't want to assume for you. Explain your stance on that.
The comp plan most certainly encourages a housing mix. But part of the reason why the comp plan encourages a housing mix is because in some instances, you could have a case where you've got what's called a missing middle problem. And the missing middle problem is basically saying that you've got a lot of single-family residents and then you got a lot of apartments. And so the comp plan was just in general saying that in order to deal with missing middle housing is to always have that mix. But technically, the city of Killeen, especially compared to other cities, really doesn't have a missing middle housing problem. If you look at the distribution of our housing, single family may be about 65%, the apartments may be about 15 or 20%, and then that missing middle is not missing because it's about 15 to 20%. And about 10% are duplexes. So we don't believe that we have a duplex issue as it relates in the city of Killeen, and so we believe that there could be more, as you said, more control to deal with that.
And so basically, the residents, and you may know more about this when it was brought before us a year ago, or less than a year ago, had to be a year, that the residents was against it. I heard you say property value. Can you refresh my memory on what happened?
Well, what I stated was, for this particular case, the residents expressed concerns, and I generally summarized their concerns. Some said that they were concerned that with this being, for the most part, a strictly single-family residential community, that bringing in a housing type that's different from that could affect their property values. They also mentioned that they thought that it could affect traffic, there could be traffic concerns. I just expressed and summarized what those residents said, but there is opposition here.
Because it's a duplex and it'll look awkward with everything being a R1.
It would not fit with the
Okay.
existing single-family character.
Okay. Thank you for that
Yes,
clarity.
ma'am.
I had forgotten, but I do remember what you're talking about. Anyone else? Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Ravel. It is my understanding that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, while the city staff recommends disapproval. I've also noted that the city council voted last year to disapprove a similar request. As we know, outlined in the comprehensive plan is a recommendation to increase density and diversity in housing as well. And as representative for this area, I can say diversity in housing remains a need. There's a large number of single-family developments across West Killeen, most of which do not offer the opportunity for middle housing. Middle housing provides housing options along the spectrum of affordability, such as duplexes, townhomes, fourplexes, et cetera. The majority of the two-family homes in West Killeen are actually located off Clear Creek, the northern portion of Bunny Trail, southern portion of Robinette, and the last area along West Stan Schluter, where the applicant has the request. Notably in this area, there is an existing two-family dwelling community located 2 streets over that is comprised of 86 duplexes owned by a multitude of different individuals or investors, if you will, which creates challenges to consistent upkeep, quality upkeep of that community. The applicant here intends to construct approximately 30 units and remain the owner and property manager of these units. In addition, the applicant plans to construct and has already begun to approve an adjoining 5-acre tract with 2 large recreational fields for activities such as soccer and football. From my understanding, the area would also include parking. The applicant would be responsible for maintenance, improvements, and oversight of these recreational fields, so there's a feature that would benefit the residents. There's a slide I'm not sure if communication has to put up. If so, I'd like to show that real quick. If you could zoom in, please, sir. Oh, we've got a nice home screen there. Give us just a moment.
So
Password, too.
Councilmember Boyd, you spoken to the applicant?
So I did speak to the applicant. I went out there to go take a look at the property. We want to make sure that this is something that would benefit the district, and that's a common occurrence as people do reach out to their council members about large development. So the answer is absolutely. If you would just zoom in there for me, I'd appreciate it. Where you see on the northern portion are 2 large tracts. Those are proposed recreational fields that I actually drove by and seen already being improved. That would offer those recreational opportunities where we don't have them on that side of town. In other words, in approving the applicant's request would provide recreational opportunities, within the area. It currently does not exist at no cost to the city. And while I have taken into account the regular concerns that accompany the conversation on two-family dwellings, I do see the overarching benefits of providing diversity in housing and recreational space in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Revelle, I don't have that slide in my package.
No, ma'am, I didn't provide it.
Sure, I provided that slide this morning. I sent that to the communications team, which is why they have it to display publicly.
Oh, okay. Anything else, Councilmember Boyd?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Yeah, I just have to wait till next week to hear from the applicants. Thank you, Mr. Revelle.
Yes, ma'am.
Items for discussion at workshop. Council, you have 5 minutes to speak, 2 times each. Why we didn't have that slide? Was that supposed to? Oh, communication. Madam Secretary.
PS 24009, discuss financial impact of proposed WCID number 1 water system improvements.
Thank you. Mr. Cagle.
Mayor and council, you heard last week the projects and the need, and what I've done here is divided into two pieces. One is the maintenance. I think a lot of you that attended the tour out there saw some of the need for some of the maintenance projects. And then the second part is additional treated water production. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about the maintenance. It was $17.5 million, and they went over all the maintenance projects at the last meeting, which included the 48-inch transmission line. So this is one that staff recommends that you approve, but if you do approve that, what are the rate impacts? And so what I want to say tonight is we're going to give you the rate impacts of the $17 million standing alone, because we're going to go into a budget process, and it could reduce a little bit, increase a little bit, depending on the rest of the needs in the budget. But we'll tell you what this would do just standing on its own. So the first thing I want you to look at is our current debt service or utility debt service schedule. So we have some, some debt that we already pay, the WCID there. There's that debt below. Then we have the debt that we've issued for projects in town, and that's going to be this debt here. Now, if we were to issue debt, or WCID is going to issue the debt and we'll make annual payments, you can see that without that, our debt drops off to there. So we can pay for about half of this in our decreased debt payment next year because we have some debt falling off. So there are a number of ways to approach this. The first thing, I'll go to the bottom and talk about that. While we can't use impact fees to pay for maintenance projects, we do have a number of projects that are eligible that we've issued debt for that we can use water impact fees to pay the debt service. And so we would pay some more of that eligible debt service to about almost $500,000. And then my suggestion, if we need it, we don't know exactly yet because we haven't gone into the budget process, but if this were standing alone, we'd need another $115,000 or so. And my recommendation is that we do this based on the tiers. So right now, it's about $15 base charge, and the first 2,000 gallons are included. And then there are 3 tiers. It's between 2,000 and 15,000 gallons, it's one rate. And then 15 to 30 is another rate, and 30 and above is another rate. And it's those top 2 tiers that I would recommend increasing. You'll see, because the bottom tiers are people that use a lower amount of water, and I'll tell you why. And that's typically for living, for drinking, for cooking, for bathing, for washing. The rest of the stuff generally occurs outside. And I'm going to skip ahead a few slides, and then I'll come back to tell you why that's important. So when we talk about the peak water usage, that's where the demand is coming from increased treatment capacity at the plant, the 2 million gallons a day that's been proposed. So we have to build a system that can provide on the peak day, almost like this was happening all year long on the peak day that occurred in August 20 of, this is all for last year, 23. That was about $27-something million. And so we've got a system that's somewhat idle the rest of the year. So a good user, a user that doesn't stress the system, is one that uses the same amount of water every month. That's a user that doesn't stress the system. One that does stress the system is one that uses a low amount and then a very high amount, something like that. That hurts the system because you have to be able to provide that one peak day. You've got a system that can do that all year long, but it only does it on one day. So the idea behind increasing the tiers is that those people that are stressing the system pay for that, and the people that are using the smaller amounts are not hurt by that. So basically what we're telling you is the financial impact of the maintenance projects, we can work it into the budget with little to no impact. Worst case, what we think, it's about $115,000, and would recommend changing the top two tiers, but not the base rates. But we'll have to go into the budget and look at all the other needs. Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Cagle, the top two tiers would be examples of what?
Between 15,000 to 30,000 gallons a month, and 30,000, over 30,000 gallons a month.
So it's kind of like a car wash or,
No, I'm talking about residential residential here.
that kind of, wow.
Oh, sure.
That's swimming pools and things of that nature.
Well, to a certain degree it is, but you don't fill up your swimming pool all the time.
Oh.
It's mostly irrigation is where most of that comes from.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
So on the maintenance side, we can do that with little or no rate impact. It's a little bit different when we get to the 2 million gallons of treatment capacity. And remember, the $6 figure, $6 a gallon, that's $12 million of treatment capacity. It's not, we're not buying water for $6 a gallon. In fact, if you think this is going to last us about 40 years, it comes out to about 4 pennies a gallon. But at the 12 million cost, after we've already done the maintenance, then there would be some rate impact there. And we have some ideas for that as well. But first, let's talk about the rate impact. And remember the graph that you saw before, this is the max day demand. It's that one day. It's not the average amount we use in a year or the total amount we use in a year. It's that one day max demand. And if you assume that this projection, that's this line here, if we assume that's perfect, we would need this treatment capacity in about 2045. So we'd be buying it almost 20 years ahead of time. And so another way to look at that is the asset that we're buying is almost 50% used up by the time we start using it. So this is ahead of schedule. There's no doubt about that. And so the recommendation from WCID is a conservative recommendation. I understand it, but it is a very conservative recommendation. And so if you look at our history, these are the actual numbers that we have here. This number is a bit of an outlier because we had a lot of flushing at that time that created the peak day artificially. So it depends. If you want to take that into account and you think the line's going that direction, then we need the treatment capacity right away. We think this is the projection that's on there right now is a decent projection. It may be a little low, maybe a little aggressive, but the 2045 timeframe is generally we agree with that. So another way to look at this is, do we just think the max day, can we do something to decrease the max day?
Right.
Would that not be a better use of the money than spending money on capacity that we don't need for quite a while? And this is where I get back into this one. Is there something we can do to reduce these peak days? And there are some things. Number one is get more aggressive on water line replacement, because when you have water lines break, if they happen to break on the peak day, especially a large water line break, is really going to send the peak higher than it should be. We're doing some things. We've had suggestions. We're looking at different ways of conservation. We'll be bringing back to you a car wash ordinance. It won't have a lot of impact right away, but you don't get any impact if you don't start. So now let's look at, if you do want to do it, how does this work out? So as we said, right now in 24, we know we're going to have this drop off in debt. But if we do the maintenance here, then we're having to add this amount up here for the excess, for the additional capacity. So the options, number one is don't increase capacity, you don't have to pay for it. The other way is a base rate increase of about $1.47 a month on residential account. Or another option, we wouldn't be able to get it right away, but our water impact fees, we are going to recommend updating the study later on. And if you include this in the study, you can raise the impact fees and use the revenue from that to help pay for the debt service as well.
So for the $1.47, that would be for tier 2 and 3 only, or would that be?
No, ma'am, this would be the base. This would be adding to the 15, yes, ma'am. That would be everybody pays that one. Yeah. Because that's about $12 million. That's not annual debt service, but $12 million of debt. If you'll remember, I'll go back to the other one. The recommendation, the first recommendation was that approve the maintenance projects, leave the base rates alone. So the tiers, there's not as many people that are using water after 15,000 gallons and even fewer people that are using water after 30,000 gallons. So rate increases, even a 50% rate increase there doesn't generate a whole lot of revenue, but it does put the cost on those people that are placing the stress on the system, that are increasing that peak day. So they should really be paying for that. And if you want to go for the increased capacity.
What my question, and thank you for answering that. So we can manage the maintenance side of it within our budget?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Or a small increase on the top tiers.
Correct. Can you go back to your recommendations, please?
Mm-hmm. And well, I'm sorry, it's that's the first recommendation on the maintenance project, is to first use our water impact fees to pay existing debt service. That will free up some money to pay for the maintenance debt service. And then if we need it, increase the top 2 tiers to generate the additional revenue, and that will pay for the maintenance projects.
So when you say increase, that's my question. The top 2 tiers by
Yes, ma'am.
50%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's increase in how much they pay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Wow.
And unless, you'd never hit that unless you go over 15,000 and then over 30,000.
Right, I mean, the 50%, I'm questioning, just asking the question, but I want to make it so clear that individuals that use that amount of money, this is why we're doing what we're
Yes,
doing.
ma'am.
When
And
the
it's-
council make whatever decision, the option they choose.
And that's just an increase on those tiers. That's not a 50% increase in the total
Right,
water
tier
bill.
2 and 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
And so our recommendation is that it's a little early for us now to be adding capacity, but if you want to be super conservative and super safe, you can definitely do it. Part of this is timing on the whole system. I think we'd be, if other customer entities out there of WCID really need the capacity right now, we could work something out to lease it to them because we have excess if that's what's driving this. But right now, it's really early for us to be adding this capacity.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Kagan.
Yes, ma'am. Last slide I wanted to leave just to remind everybody. I just pulled this out of the budget presentation from this summer. Now, some of these other this is water and sewer, but on water if it was standalone, we're very low at our comparative cities. That we really have low water rates. I'm not saying that's a reason to raise them. I'm just putting it in
To
perspective.
$1.47.
I'm sorry?
Did you say $1.47 over, no?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm just saying we have low rates. That's not a reason to raise them, but I was wanting to put it in perspective. And a number of these cities on this list have raised them since we did this. So if you keep the big picture in mind, we have enough raw water capacity. Now remember, I'm not talking treated. we have enough raw water capacity for the next 50 to 70 years to deal with our growth. And we have comparatively very low water rates. We're in a very enviable position water-wise, and that part of that you have to thank WCID for their planning and for their work over the years that we're in this position. There are very few cities in the state that can say they have that much raw water supply. Now, tonight, we were talking about treated water. We can have all the raw water in the world. It doesn't do any good if you can't treat it to where you can drink it. But we are in a very strong position regarding water.
Thank you. So we have the money within our budget, we will, for the maintenance side.
Yes, ma'am.
And I agree, Mr. Cagle. I don't know if you said this or not, but my stance is I don't see a need to raise any fees on water, especially for our residents. So as we grow, I mean, we can make a decision, but right now we're covered. That's just my perspective. Councilmember Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I get a copy of that? Because that screen is really hard to see.
Yes, sir.
We don't have, do we have one?
I think we may have already sent it to you in email, but it was late this afternoon.
You did, okay, okay, thank you.
See? So, Mr. Cagle, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
That was really good.
You're welcome.
Madam Secretary. That's
D-
why I had to ask questions. I didn't have it. Yes, ma'am.
DS 24010, discuss financial governance policy updates.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mrs. Tangleman, thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This item is about the financial governance policy annual review. Let me take my glasses off because it messes me up sometimes. Apologize. The financial governance policy is the comprehensive source for financial policies in the city, and the investment policy is part of the financial governance policy in accordance with the Public Funds Investment Act must be adopted annually. I want to just, for you guys to take a note, this is just a discussion item. I will bring this next workshop meeting for a resolution. So this is the way you guys can see what items what language we want to change. And then you have a whole week, and then we see you again for the next workshop with the same item. The red line PDF was sent this afternoon, but I'm going to go through the changes over here really quick. The requested changes, there's a few changes in Section 8. And then I made a last change for Section 8A. And then it was just for the acceptance of donated property. We currently have the donations and other gifts offered to the city must be approved by the city manager. And we just want to add or designee in that language. That way the city manager can be able to delegate some of those donations acceptance. Then also we have Section 8B, and it is the user's fees and rates, cleanup, verbiage related to the fee schedule and posting for public comment period. And that is because in the policy right now, we have that city manager can approve fees increases as long as there are no about benchmarking. But according to a change into the city charter, Article 3, any fee increase needs to have a public hearing. So we made some changes that way we're in compliance with that change. And also we added that the fee schedule will be posted in March for 30 days for public comment. And also the policy state that the city manager is authorized to change rates for promotional purposes, but we changed that to change the rates to reduce the rates since he cannot increase the rates unless we have a public hearing. The next change will be also in Section 8. And then we amended some residential water rates examples with updated rates. So we have a couple of examples in there, and we just want to show the exact rate. And we did this also the same in the residential sewer example. Then in section A2, 10A2, we clarify some fund balance requirement. We added the street maintenance fund to maintain a reserve fund balance for debt services requirements. Right now, we don't have the street maintenance fund under the fund balance reserve, and then so we had to add that since we actually pay on debt services from the street maintenance fund. And then the last changes that we have, we incorporated the following resolutions into the financial governance policy, and that's the TEF program, policies and procedures, and we're gonna repeal resolution 08-168. That way we have just one policy to review annually, and we don't miss these policies that are in ordinance. That was added in section 17 on the internal controls. Then we added in section 14, the capital project policy into the, and we're gonna repeal the resolution 18026. And again, these policies were added, that way we can review it annually and we don't miss them when we do those annual reviews. Those are the old changes we have right now. You will have the alternatives to readopt, to revise, or to accept the changes. And the recommendation will be that we readopt the financial governance policy to include the investment policies as amended. And like I say, we're gonna do this presentation again for the next workshop meeting. I will be happy to answer any questions you have in it right now.
Thank you, Mrs. Tanglein. It's just you gave us some updates on cleanup. That's all it was.
Yes, that's it.
It's
That's it,
just
ma'am.
cleanup.
Yes.
Okay. No major changes, just cleaning up some things. Thank you
No,
very
ma'am.
much.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
DS 24011, discuss special workshop set for February 21st, 2024 at noon for City Council to gather input and priorities for FY 2025 budget.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Welcome back, Mrs. Drake.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I don't have a presentation on this. We brought this back due to some conflicting schedules. Noon was going to be a difficult time for a couple of the council members, so we wanted to bring this back to get a motion of direction on what time would be good for February 21st for the special workshop to get the FY25 budget priorities.
Yes, ma'am, and I thank you. February the 21st is on a Wednesday, and council, as she stated, it was a conflict to do it at noon. Is it a possibility to do it at 2, 3 earlier? Councilmember Board recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a partial conflict on this date. I was curious to see, speaking on my behalf, if we can meet as early as 9 or maybe 10.
Okay, we have a 9 o'clock, 10. Anyone else have a recommendation for a time? It's 9 and 10, okay with you? Councilman Solomon? You can't be there? Okay, do you have another recommendation on that date, time? It's
But
1
there's
o'clock.
conflict.
Yeah, it's conflicts with my schedule. My evening is tied up out of town.
Okay, if that's a concern, can we go with another date then?
Before we go with another date, is there any issues with pushing this any further back or moving it forward? I'm just curious.
I think if we keep it in February, we're probably okay.
You talking about the
Yes.
time, Frank, 7, 8?
No, I'm talking about the date.
The date.
Okay. Councilmember Solomon, do you have a date?
Could we do the following week?
Do you have a date?
The 28th.
The 28th is on a Wednesday, okay.
That works for me.
Okay, can we go at 12?
Yes.
Okay, 12.
Mayor,
No?
I may have to go to Fort Worth that day with the Hill Country Transit District, with meeting with the Federal Transportation Administration. That's on a, it's not guaranteed, but it's on a hold right now.
Yes, sir. Is it possible, council, if no other recommendations, that we can do it on a Tuesday, the 27th, or earlier, like at 12 on that Tuesday, and go into a council meeting at 5, or that's too long of a day?
What
Is that
about
a workshop or a regular meeting day?
Well, it could be either or for me, a workshop or regular day.
I
We're going to be here anyway.
My recommendation would be for a regular meeting.
Okay,
Whatever
regular meeting, it'll be shorter, okay. Is that okay, Councilmember
Yeah.
Solomon, on the Tuesday?
Tuesday at what time?
We're going to decide on what date, and the time can start at 12?
You guys want to start at 12, that's fine. I prefer
12?
morning 10 around that time, but hey, whatever.
At
consensus
12? Oh, you retired. 12? Is that, Councilman Solomon, it's really
Yeah,
on you.
It's kind of tight for me, but we can go for that.
At 12?
Does the morning work better for you, Councilman Solomon?
Tuesday is not a good day for me.
Oh, I see.
Okay, well, we move on. All right, let's keep looking.
Yeah, this is kind of how it works, guys.
What,
Yes, Councilman Solomon.
what about the 22nd, Thursday?
The 22nd at 12, I have a Central Texas Council of Government.
22nd?
Yes, at 12 o'clock. I'll be in Belton. 29th, I'm open.
I'm not for the 29th.
Okay, oh Lord. So what can we do? Can we just come up and send you all some dates? And then you can put them all, consolidate them, and then we'll send back out an email and see if this will work, because we can go all night. And to be
I have a quick
honest,
question.
Councilmember Segarra's not here. Councilmember Gonzalez is not there. So whatever date we do select, it may be a conflict for them.
True.
So we can go through this all night, and it really won't matter because two other council members hadn't given their opinion. So I just think we should just send you some dates. Are y'all okay with that, council?
That would work.
Okay, thank you. All right. So council, I'm going to move council member board item, which is council member request for a future agenda item. And then after that, we're going to go back into our closed session. Is that okay with you? All right. Yes, sir.
Okay, don't we have, okay, I see what you're saying. For the 17 is what you're saying? 17? Future
Oh,
agenda
yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Madam Secretary.
RQ 24001, discuss pedestrian accidents on Elms Road.
Council, this is a request for a future agenda item. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This agenda item request is an example of a city council member bringing forth a citizen's comment on a non-agenda item regarding a relevant community-related issue. So this is one of the first times we're going to be exercising this method. Essentially, a Clean Citizen seeks to bring awareness to the city council relating to the police department speeding, gaps in sidewalk, and inadequate lighting along West Elms Road. And so my request is for the council to move this discussion forward for discussion.
Council, this is not a discussion item. All in favor for making this a future agenda, a motion of direction to make this future agenda item. Councilmember Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I make a motion that we would make this,
A motion of direction.
yes, a motion direction that we would make this a future agenda item.
Council, Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor
I have a
of
question.
this motion?
Actually, I have a question, and that's something. No, the question is this: how soon could we bring this on the agenda for the citizen to speak on?
It could be on next week. I don't know, unless you're asking for staff to have some information. If you
Not
just want to
at
put it
all.
on there, discuss it, it could be next week.
No staff information, just discussion. My recommendation will be for next week, council.
Okay, motion of direction. Is this going to be a
Amended.
future agenda item? They have to vote to see if it's going to be a future agenda item.
Okay. let's
Okay,
vote.
Councilmember Adams, is that a yes? Okay, Councilmember,
Yes.
throw a thumb up. Okay, great. All right, now you can go, Councilmember. Did you say yes to?
Yes.
All right, now Councilmember Boyd.
Yes.
Your motion or direction to have it on for next week?
Yes, so I guess I'm amending the motion?
I can put it on there, you don't have to do all that. All right,
Okay, it's late.
anything else? All right. Pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Law, Government Code 551.001, the mayor now calls a closed meeting of the city council on the 6th day of February 2024 at 8:19 p.m. Section 551.071, consultation with the attorney. The city council will consult with the legal counsel regarding pending litigation for DS-24-013. Council is now in closed session. Mr. Cagle. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, sir. At 9 o'clock, the council came out of closed meeting. Council, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Board and Councilmember Abbott. No, who said that? Solomon. Solomon, sorry about that. Solomon. All in favor? Aye.